Do you know the difference between the past participle of a verb and the present participle? If you need a moment to think about it, pause the video and give it a thought and tell me what do you think the difference is. In today's video, we will be talking about verb participles. And verb participles in English are two types, either the past participle of a verb or the present participle of a verb. Quite simply, the present participle is the ing form of the verb, like reading, running, swimming. All of these are present participles of these verbs. Whereas the past participle of the verb, which is also called form number 3 or the third form of the verb, is either the ed form of the verb if it exists, or it's form number 3 of it as an irregular verb. For example, if we think about regular verbs like enjoy, work, and stay will have their past participles being enjoyed, worked, and stayed. As you can see, because these are regular verbs, so all these past participles and all their past participles end in the suffix ed. But many verbs in English are irregular, which means that they do not have ed at their ends, whether in the past simple or the past tense form or in the past participle. And those have to be studied and memorized by heart from a table, a very famous table in English that we call Table of Irregular Verbs or List of Irregular Verbs. For example, the past participle of a verb like begin is begun. The past participle of find is found. The past participle of cut is cut, and so on and so forth. So, in today's video, the point I'm trying to make about verb participles is the fact that verb participles can be used as adjectives. For example, when I say, the film was really interesting. The film was really interesting. So interesting here is an adjective that describes the film, which is a noun, and it's composed of the verb interest plus the suffix ing. So interesting is a participle adjective. Why? Because it's the present participle of the verb. It is made of the present participle of the verb, in this case the ing form. And we can have another example, which is the boys felt excited. The boys felt excited. Excited is a past participle of the verb excite. And in this example, it's used as an adjective which describes the noun boys, and it's made up of the past participle of excite, which is excited. So excited is considered also a participle adjective. Just like any other adjective, participle adjectives can be placed either before the noun or after the verb. For example, we can say, the excited crowd were enjoying the game. I'm describing the crowd as excited, and I'm putting the word excited before the noun, which is crowd. So here, the participle adjective is used before the noun. The excited crowd were enjoying the game or the match. And we can have the participle adjective after the verb. So we can say, for example, the film was interesting. The film was interesting. As you can see, the adjective interesting is used after the verb, in this case verb to be, which is in the form was. Also, there is another possible position for participle adjectives in sentences, and that's immediately after the noun they describe. So you can use a participle adjective in a sentence and you place it immediately after the noun they describe. Let me give you a couple of examples. I counted the number of people waiting. So waiting is a participle adjective. It describes the word people and it's coming immediately after it. I counted the number of people waiting. Another example. We had to pay for the rooms used. Used is a participle adjective describing the word rooms and it's used immediately after it, as you saw in the sentence. We had to pay for the rooms used. So the point we have made in this one is that there is a third possible position for participle adjectives in sentences. In addition to the normal positions before the noun or after the verb, they can also be used immediately after the noun they describe. Formally, which means informal English, which is used in formal situations, written English, academic language, and so on, we can place the demonstrative adjectives, that and those, before participle adjectives. So you can use the word that if it's a singular thing we're talking about, or you can use the word those if you're talking about something plural. You can use these two words, that and those, before the noun, before the participle adjective in the sentence. Let me also give you a few examples. The office temperature is lower than that required by law. So that is placed before the participle adjective required. Another example. The quality of the motors is lower than those manufactured elsewhere. So those is used immediately before the participle adjective manufactured. One more example about this point. Here is some advice for those preparing to go on holiday. So the word those is placed immediately before the participle adjective preparing. This is the part of today's session which is tackling the topic of participle adjectives. The second part of today's lesson will be about compound adjectives. Well, let me start by explaining to you what a compound adjective is. Compound adjectives are words which are made up of smaller words and they act collectively as an adjective. For example, if you look at this word, state of the art. Well, this is one word, although it's made up of 4 words, which are state of the art. So it's made up of 4 words, but it acts as one word because there is a hyphen between each 2 words. So there is a hyphen between state and of, another hyphen between of and the, and a third hyphen between the and art. So you have 3 hyphens in this word, which means that we have 4 words. Collectively, they are making one word, which is state of the art. And this is an adjective, which means very modern. State-of-the-art technology, modern technology, state-of-the-art appliances, state-of-the-art devices, and so on. So a compound adjective, again, is a group of words which are used together as one word, and this word acts as an adjective. Let me give you an example. The problem is short term. Short term is a compound adjective, and it's made up of two words, short and term. Another example. It was just a small scale project. Small scale is a compound adjective that's made up of two words, small and scale. The two words have a hyphen between them. A hyphen exists inside the word. So when you have a hyphen in a word, this means that the word before the hyphen and the word after the hyphen together, they act as one word. In our case, it's a compound adjective. Well, there are several types of compound adjectives, but today I will be talking about three types of them. Either you have an adverb followed by a participle adjective, and you know what a participle adjective on from the first part of the session. We talked about them. It's a participle adjective is either the past participle or the present participle of the verb. So, a compound adjective could be made of an adverb plus a participle adjective, or an adjective plus another participle adjective, or a noun plus a participle adjective. Let me give you a few examples on each of these types. So let's tackle the first type, which is an adverb followed by a participle adjective. I have two examples for you. Well-behaved. You can describe a child as well-behaved. Well-behaved is a compound adjective because it's made up of two words, well and behaved. Well, as you know, is an adverb. Behaved is a past participle, which means it's a participle adjective. So this is an example of a compound adjective that's made up of two words, an adverb first, followed by a participle adjective second. Let's take an example on the second type, which is a compound adjective made up of an adjective followed by a participle adjective. Sweet smelling. That's a sweet smelling perfume, or that's a sweet smelling fragrance, yeah? Sweet smelling herbs, or in American English they pronounce it herbs, right? So sweet smelling means that it has a sweet smell. As you can see, sweet is an adjective. Smelling is a participle adjective ending in ing. So sweet smelling together is a compound adjective. Why? Because it's made up of two words, sweet, which is an adjective, followed by smelling, which is a participle adjective. And then a third and last example on compound adjectives here, and that's a noun followed by a participle adjective. Like when we say, for example, eye-opening. If you describe something as eye-opening, it means that it told you a lot of information, that it made you aware of things that you weren't aware about or weren't aware of in the past. So an eye-opening article. When you read that article, you learned a lot of things that you hadn't known before that. An eye-opening documentary. A documentary that tells you about things that you have never heard of before, right? So eye is a noun. Opening is a participle adjective. So this is an example of a compound adjective that's made up of a noun, that's I, followed by a participle adjective, which is opening. It's worth mentioning here that these are only 3 types of compound adjectives, but there are about 12 types of them. I didn't want to go through the 12 types in order not to prolong the video, but you can always Google or ask ChatGPT about compound adjectives and their types, and they can tell you a lot more about them, more than what we have covered in this video. And here we come to the end of today's lesson. I hope it was useful and beneficial for you. Again, I always have my call of action for you. If you like the content, please don't hesitate to like the page, subscribe to it, like the videos, share them to your beloved ones, your friend and family members, or anyone who might be interested in this content or needing it. And also, if you have any comments, suggestions, or remarks, please drop them down in the comment box, and I will be very pleased to look at them and answer them right away. Enjoy the rest of your day, my friends, and thank you for your attentive listening. Goodbye for now.